It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
It has been last week, and I said this, we did a Facebook Live hit really the day of. Last week was one of the most positive weeks that I've really ever been experienced, here at the Capitol. And it really had to do with a Senate Public Health Committee where Senator Jason Rapert went before that committee and very eloquently presented his bill, which is called across the nation an abortion trigger law. But effectively what it would do is it would ban abortion in Arkansas with the exception of the life of the mother if and when Roe versus Wade is overturned. And of course, there's a lot of talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg being the next vacancy on the court, and that would mean President Trump would get a third Supreme Court justice. It's the left's nightmare. Joining us more to talk about this Arkansas bill that may soon become a law, we have Senator Jason Rapert with us right now. Senator Rapert, thanks so much for spending time with us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me on, and I appreciate you for your interest. And, today is actually the day, Paul. Representative Mary Bentley will be presenting SB 149 on the floor of the Arkansas House. And I think it's very fitting that on Valentine's Day, Arkansas may be given the gift of abolishing abortion as soon as we are given that authority back by the federal government.
That's very well said. And I would just say this. There's a lot of people anticipating Roe versus Wade going away, and they're doing the opposite of what you're trying to do, Senator, what the General Assembly is trying to do. You have New York and Virginia, and what they are doing is really just, and I think you mentioned this, a crime against humanity.
That's right. And, the SB 149, the bill that we put together, we really wanted to lay out, and I noticed that you actually, that spoke to you a lot. I could tell when I visited with you in the comments that you had sent to me. In the front of the bill, we put in legislative findings there, Paul. And in those legislative findings, we very specifically and for a special reason call out the grave injustice and the crime against humanity that we believe abortion has been in the nation. When you take a look back at history, you go back to the 1860s, and it was the Democrats who were saying that black-skinned people were less than human beings, that they were not full persons. And it took an overturn of the Dred Scott decision by the Supreme Court to overturn a prior decision, of course, there, to actually say that no, African-American people are full persons. That was a grave injustice, and unfortunately went through a civil war that dealt somewhat with that same right. Then you move forward, dealing also again with our African-American fellow Americans here that are black-skinned people. You have the Plessy versus Ferguson decision, which said that they were not fully persons, that they were not given the same rights. That was segregation, the separate but equal decision. And it took the Brown versus Board of Education decision, overturning a 58-year precedent, to then right that horrible wrong, which was a grave injustice against the African-American people of this nation. And what we're saying is that when you look at civil rights, the most fundamental and the first right that we have is the right to life. And that right has been fundamentally overlooked. And so you go from 1860s, the Democrats defending slavery, now to 1973 and up to today. Guess who it has been that has been defending that the fact that in America, by law, those little human beings in mothers' wombs are not fully human. They're not given personhood. That's been the Democrat Party in the nation. And, of course, they've got very, very specialized groups that are making that argument, which is your Planned Parenthood, as well as the ACLU, and some of their associates in that leftist extremist arena. And those groups literally are sitting at committee tables and arguing to keep killing babies in mothers' wombs. Paul, I sat there the other day. Mary Bentley in the House had asked me to come down. She is the House sponsor. And I sat with her and we presented the heartbeat bill in the House Public Health Committee. I don't know if you saw any of that footage, but there was 2 Planned Parenthood representatives that came to the table to speak. And I was astounded to sit there and listen to an African-American lady explain that abortion should continue to be made available because Hispanics and Black people disproportionately use that abortion service.
Wow.
I had to actually look at her twice, and, you know, I couldn't believe that that's what she's saying at the table. They're so blinded. The people that support abortion now in America, that are the activists, are so blinded by this, they don't understand that they will speak and tell you that we must keep abortion legal in America, killing little babies in mothers' wombs, and then in 30 minutes they could be talking about animal welfare and say that we should punish and charge with a crime and imprison people for harming a little puppy or a little kitten. It's as if they have a complete disconnect from the humanity of a little child and the humane treatment of an animal, or a kitten or a puppy.
Yeah.
And so in Arkansas, I would want the people that are listening to know, we're clearly a pro-life state. We were protecting the lives of children in mothers' wombs before the Roe v. Wade decision, as was most other states in the country. And then a federal judge, the federal judges on the Supreme Court in this case, I believe it was 7 of them, made the decision that no, you're able to take the life of this child. But in Arkansas, we had this legacy, if you will, or this history of protecting life. And so we began to try to fight back against that and do the best. So over time, in 1988, the state passed Amendment 68, which says that in our Constitution, we declare that we believe life begins at conception and we will protect it, and that no public funds shall be used for abortion. Now, it does state in Amendment 68 that we believe life begins at conception and that abortion is only acceptable in the case of saving the life of the mother, okay? And then you come in and you see the heartbeat bill that we've passed. You see other things that we've done over the last few decades. Very clear, we want to protect life. And so SB 149 is very simple. At the very moment that Roe v. Wade, or the Planned Parenthood versus Casey case, decided and overturned, restoring rights to the states to regulate or prohibit abortion, or a constitutional amendment might be passed, which actually allows us the authority again to regulate or prohibit abortion. Once this law passes today, and Governor Hutchinson signs it into law in the next few days, we are set that immediately when that situation appears, that Arkansas would abolish abortion, and it would be this group of legislators and Governor Hutchinson that set that in motion. And I'm very proud. I saw Governor Hutchinson last night. Of all the issues that we could discuss, Paul, we discussed this very issue.
That's good.
And he's prepared for this bill. He's prepared to sign this bill into law. And I'm very proud today. We did not plan it this way, but it is perfect that on Valentine's Day, when we talk about the love in our heart for other people, true love is going to be shown on the Arkansas House floor. We say it's time to stop killing innocent little human babies.
We're talking with Senator Jason Rapert about this bill, this what's known nationally as an abortion trigger law. Senator, I know in your Senate testimony and in the Senate committee testimony, you did mention 60 million children since 1973. You mentioned in 2017 in Arkansas over 3,000 babies killed in the state. I was watching Tucker Carlson last night, and he had, at the very end of his show, he had this ministry from Hungary on, and they were talking about all the things that Hungary is doing to encourage couples to have more kids. Even Russia does this. They've got a whole holiday where because they value life, and they look at us over here. And if you look at what we've done, people want to say be scared of Russia. Well, I don't buy the hype, but I am worried about it when they have a different view of life than we do over here.
Right. Well, I think if you go back several decades, Paul, I don't know what Russian leader stated it, but I think of Khrushchev when they talked about they could take America without ever firing a shot.
Yes.
And part of that, at another time on another program, if you ever go back and take a look at some of the Communist Manifesto that was stated in the 1960s and read into the congressional record about what they would do to change the future of America, one of those is not valuing life. When you get a culture to get to the point that they actually kill their own children, that they take the lives of their babies. That's why when I think about, what happened in World War II and the Holocaust, and I think about what happened in Rwanda with the Hutus and the Tutsis that killed 1 million of their own people, we think of those things and we immediately have the negative connotation, this is bad, this is wrong, this is horrible. But yet in this nation, we have somehow convinced and made a case that it's rational that an innocent little baby could simply be killed. And it's the point now in Virginia with Governor Northam, which I want to tell you, I know they got all upset about his blackface issue there, but I'm much more upset that you would have a leader of a state, one of the largest in the country, right on the footsteps of the capital of the nation, state that a baby could be born alive, lay there on a table, and die. I don't understand the mindset or the thought process for a person that would say and even argue that you let a little baby lie on a table, struggle in agony. That means that he gives more deference to a person being executed on death row, making sure they're comfortable, than you would a baby that's going to lie there and struggle in pain.
And you were
can't understand.
I know, and you were asked the question. I can't remember, but one of your colleagues, a Democrat on the Senate floor, asked you if we're going to be pro-life, then we also need to be against the death penalty. And your response was absolutely really good. And I'd like for you to share that with us again, if you can remember it.
Well, I want to give you a little backstory on this because God does work in mysterious ways. When she stood and asked that question, it was the first time in a Senate committee or on the Senate floor that they had put that right in my hand. And I was immediately ready because that's exactly what was said to me in the office of Governor Mike Beebe in 2013 when I was passing the very first heartbeat bill. And we had passed that bill with a Republican legislature, and this is why I want to say, please continue to get social and fiscal conservatives in office. We passed that heartbeat bill. Governor Mike Beebe sat there with me and one of his assistants, it's actually his chief of staff, and several of his staff behind me. I was the only other person in the room sitting in the middle of all that. And he told me, he said, Jason, I'm going to veto the bill. He said, I put my hand on the Bible and I swore that I would uphold the U.S. Constitution and the Arkansas Constitution. And son, he said, your bill is unconstitutional. I've got to veto it. I said, well, Governor, and I told this on the floor, this is what you're referring to. I said, Governor, I made a decision. I'm not going to argue with you when I came in here. But I've given you a choice. And it's the only choice that you've ever had in your career that you could sign a bill and save the lives of thousands of little children. And I said, I'm glad you brought up the U.S. Constitution because I made those same oaths when I was elected. In the U.S. Constitution, there is no place there where it says there's a right to kill a little baby. There's no right to abortion. And you also bring up the Arkansas Constitution. In that Constitution, it says, and this order is too, that life begins at conception and we shall protect it in the state of Arkansas. So if there's anybody here that's actually breaking their oath, it would be you. And then you said you put your hand on the Bible. And I want you to know that in the Bible it says that when he spoke to Jeremiah, he had knew him before he formed him in the womb. And that's when Paul, his chief of staff, got a little bit angry. And he said, Senator, it sounds to me like you're getting ready to get rid of the death penalty. And I said, you know what I've been thinking about? I said, because there's a difference, though. And the Bible says God hates those that shed innocent blood. And then I turned back to Governor Beebe and I said, sir, you said at the governor's mansion a few months ago that if we would send a bill to you to get rid of the death penalty, that you would sign it. What I wanted to know today is that the same place in your heart that would get you to want to sign a bill to protect the life of a murderer who killed an innocent person might also be the same place in your heart that would want you to protect an innocent little baby. And that's when the meeting was over, Paul.
Yeah, I imagine.
And that's the same thing that Senator Linda Chesterfield asked me. And I want to mention one other thing on that. You also know that one of our Democrat senators brought up faith. If you saw that, she actually turned away and looked into the crowd and was addressing some teenagers. And as she addressed them, she began to cloak herself in faith and state that she was a Christian and that she had been forgiven of her sins when Jesus died for her sins, and she's going to proudly vote against this bill. Now, that's someone that says that they're cloaking themselves in their faith, and that's giving them the basis to vote to continue to kill little babies. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And so I said at the end of the other day, because I could not let that pass, I said, let me tell you this. In my Bible, Jesus says to suffer the little children to come to him. In no place in the Bible does it say Jesus says to kill little children. And this is where we are in America today. You have people that have managed to rationalize the killing of an innocent little child. In Arkansas, 2017, 3,249 legal deaths. Don't say we don't have the death penalty in Arkansas being exercised very much. No, we do every single business day just west of the 430, 630 split, right there in Little Rock, the Little Rock abortion clinic. And this is something that we need to deal with humanity. And I believe personally there are two things that must be addressed in our nation for our nation to really have peace in our soul. And those are two things that go directly against the Word of God in the Bible, and that is abortion, the killing of innocent life, and that also is marriage, which has to do with what God ordained, man and a woman. And we are really in trouble in this country socially and morally, not to mention fiscally. And you can bring the whole root down to the fact that when a nation turns against God and shakes their angry fist at God and say that we know better than you, history has always recorded that society, that culture has come to a cataclysmic end. If we don't change and God doesn't have patience with us, we won't survive in this country until we deal with the problems in our heart.
We're talking with Senator Jason Rapert. Last question, because we're running out of time. You mentioned history. Do you think at some point in the future, future generations will look back on this time with the issue of abortion the way we now look at slavery in our history?
Oh, yes. I even mentioned that in one of the committee rooms. When you look back, they will look at this time. Well, think about it. You think about us, just think, let's go back and say, can you talk to me about a culture that killed their own? When you do that, you can't, I don't know of any other nation in history that has killed over 60 million of their own little babies. I don't know any of those. I feel that we've got more blood on our hands on this issue than any other, definitely any other society of modern history. In fact, we're alive. You would have to look to some of the killing in Eastern Europe and the old Soviet Union to even get close to what we're doing here. Listen, people know this. It's wrong to take the life of an innocent person. And they are actually going to dumb down the American people and think that little beating heart in the womb is not given the same difference that a little kid and a little puppy is. I believe, as you know, that life begins at conception, and I was proud to run the heartbeat bill because we knew that when there's a heartbeat, there's life.
Yeah.
And what I'm asking today is those 100 house members, today's your choice. It's your choice today. You talk about choice people have today is the choice for the Arkansas House of Representatives. They're going to choose life or they won't, and they will be accountable for that vote and that decision for eternity.
Senator Jason Rapert, thank you so much for your leadership on this issue, sir, and I appreciate you coming on the program.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. You too, sir. Folks, Senator Jason Rapert, let me just tell you something. It is a big deal. The House voting on this today is a big deal. And you know what else is a big deal? The fact that our state is trying to do something about this issue when other states are doing the complete opposite. That's a big deal. We're going on two divergent paths from states like New York, Virginia, and there's other states, Massachusetts, Vermont, that are trying to expand their abortions and when you can do it. We're going to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us back